coffee. On cafe. Now, a hallmark of a great singer is the fluidity of their phrasing, their ability to join words on a single breath. But certain sound combinations make that kind of difficult. Think, for instance, ripe plums. Kind of awkward, doesn't flow. Or even fine mess. It flows, but it's kind of mushy and indistinct. Now, I do have a little trick. Dead simple. We just have to think Italian. So welcome to today's quick tip. My name's Scott. This is Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, this tip is a very subtle adjustment, but it makes a big difference to both the ease of our singing and the ease of our sound. But if you're not familiar with the principles of articulation, you might not be quite sure what you're listening for. So I've linked my video about articulation for singers in the description below. So back to our phrase, ripe plums. You might say, well, the obvious solution is to just separate them, ripe plums. But then we've compromised the phrasing, because there's a gap between those words where there's no vibration. Aha, you say, why don't we just join the two P's together? Ripe plums. Well, then it sounds like rye plums, which is not what we intend. And so then we've compromised the intelligibility. So let me introduce you to a concept I call the Italianesque. Bear with me. It's just a short, fairly neutral vowel, in fact, not unique to Italy. In fact, New Zealanders might use it in a phrase like a little bit. Or if you're Julie Andrews, you might sing, "The hills are alive," the, not the, and no glottal. But what makes it Italianesque is the sing-songiness of the cadence, because we're adding extra syllables on a resonant tone. So a phrase like, "Is this the thing?" becomes, "Is this the thing?" The Italianesque verb. And that's the first step. And this is how we separate those awkward, mushy sounds and yet connect the phrase. So back to my ripe plums. Ripe plums is different to ripe plums. Just be careful not to let it sound like riper plums. And that's really just a matter of emphasis and how heavily we stress those in-between moments. Okay, so what about a fine mess then? A fine mess. No longer mushy. And we can also use this technique at the end of a phrase. A fine mess. Where it not only emphasises that final syllable, but instead of ending on that voiceless S sound, a fine mess, we end on a voiced sound. A fine mess, which is inherently much stronger. Initially, if it feels kind of heavy-handed and obvious, just know that it takes time to get used to that rhythmic cadence. And this is also what makes it so useful for something like swing music, where we want that strong internal rhythm. So think of a phrase like, "I've seen the moon rise in your eyes." It becomes, "I've seen the moon rise in your eyes." Articulate and connected. So speak your lyrics out loud. So speak your lyrics out aloud to work out where you can insert these little Italianesque joiners. Use it consciously at first until it becomes second nature, and then you can use your own sense of taste and judgment about how and where you apply it most effectively. The next step is to make it feel light and effortless, just so you're not drawing attention to the technique. And that could be a matter of strengthening all the other sounds so it doesn't stand out so obviously, or as I said earlier, simply adjusting the weight of that emphasis. And as with many of these strategies, it sounds much more obvious in speech than it does in singing, so don't be afraid of it. It's that simple. That's why I call it a quick tip. If you'd like more than just a tip, we can go all the way. Like, subscribe, watch my other videos, tell YouTube, hey, people should watch these videos. This has been fun. Hasn't this been fun? We should totally do this again. Too much coffee. See you next time. Cheers. Look at the shakes.